was no evidence of a train strike. There were no ankle fractures. There were no pelvic fractures.
He thought the injuries could have been from a beating, and they were not consistent with a train strike whatsoever. They tried to resuscitate our son, and there was no blood in his body. Well, where's the blood? Did this happen elsewhere?
There are so many inconsistencies that have been revealed. It is remarkable.
Do you think that the police know what happened and are covering it up?
I think the police know exactly what happened. The corruption here is started from day one.
For what reason do you personally think that somebody would want John dead?
He may have known too much about certain people. Is it because the police commissioner's son was involved?
Nearly 2 tons of cocaine, heroin and ketamine, carrying a street value of £135 million, was brought into UK ports by mechanism orchestrated by John Arnold, the same person who was on the railway tracks within hours of the death.
Nobody has ever come forward. Why do you think that is?
I think people fear this particular family. We know who's behind it. Peter Taroni has already told us. Why are Stafford Police doing nothing about it? Are they on the take? The police have done nothing but cover this up from day one.
This has been the poorest police investigation in relation to a death.
Do you believe that you know who killed your son?
Today, we are here to discuss the death of John Merrick and the very suspicious circumstances that surround it. The police's narrative is that John's death was a tragic accident, but his parents strongly refute that theory, and they are certain that it wasn't an accident, but stone cold murder.
Gentlemen, it's good to see you.
Morning.
Would you mind introducing yourselves to the audience and let everybody know who you are in relation to this case?
My name is Paul Merrick, and I'm the father of John Paul Merrick.
I'm Sefton Kwaslik and I'm a solicitor from Ozon in Altrincham, and I've been helping the family try to find the truth in this case for about 5 years. I've been helping.
Well, it's good to meet you, gentlemen.
Nice to meet you, thank you.
Yeah, thank you for the opportunity
No
of
problem.
sharing this with you.
No problem at all. Let's get stuck in. So, Paul,
Yes.
I'm going to read something that you said to the Birmingham Mail back in March of 2017,
Yes.
and I quote, "My name is Paul Merrick, and I believe my son was murdered, and I believe the people that murdered my son are very close, and I believe people around the Birmingham area and Sutton Coldfield and Tamworth know exactly who has murdered our son.
Yes.
Rest assured, there will be no hiding place for the evil people who have murdered our son." Now, they are some very powerful words, and I could feel the anger and the frustration behind those words. We will, of course, go much further into that, but I want to take it back to the beginning
Yep.
and learn a little bit about John first.
Okay, fine.
So answer this in whichever way you will. Who was John?
Well, John was our son, son of myself and Julie Merrick. Very well liked. He came to stay with us on the Tuesday evening before he passed away. Told us the relationship was over and he was moving out to move back into the family home. Said basically that he couldn't live in the environment of the family he was involved with. And basically that was the last we saw of him, really. He went over there on the pretense of a Chinese takeaway, which they used to have at Russell Taroni's house on a Friday evening, and he never came back.
What did John do for a living?
He was a tyre fitter. He had built up a small tyre business.
His own business.
His own business. Previously worked for the family company, which was a tyre business for many years, and he seemed to be doing quite well. He was paying an extortionate rent, I believe, for the small tyre depot that he had. But he was well liked by everybody.
That is actually my next question. How was he viewed upon socially by his peers? You kind of already...
Phenomenal. He had thousands of friends, very well liked. In fact, I've got some letters.
Can you tell us exactly when and where John passed?
John's body was found on the railway track in Wigington, which is close to Tamworth. The police purport to say there was a car accident and John's body was found on the railway track. There are witnesses to say that somebody else got out of the passenger side of the car that John was supposedly driving. The car sustained serious damage while it was in the police compound.
How do you know that the car was damaged in the police compound?
Because I went to fetch the car with my recovery driver from the police compound. We also have photographs that were taken on the night by Staffordshire Police showing there was no damage on the passenger side door and wing.
What was the conclusion of John's autopsy? What did he say?
The autopsy clearly states that John was, I think, a foot taller than he was. So there was a serious mistake made on the autopsy there.
Quite a big mistake, that, isn't it?
Very big mistake.
Can I interject at this point?
Of course.
The original autopsy was performed by a non-forensic Home Office pathologist. In other words, just a hospital pathologist performed the autopsy.
I think it was a junior, actually.
And there were three doctors present. So the senior doctor who signed off to the report, and there were two other doctors who were also in the room whilst the autopsy was performed. And we don't really know who did or saw what, but we do know, we do have the 4-page report that was submitted to the coroner court for the purpose of the inquest. And significantly, as you have mentioned the autopsy, what I am able to say from first-hand knowledge based on the documents that the family have received is that 4 or 5 years after the conclusion of the inquest, British Transport Police, not the Merrick family, but British Transport Police themselves, went to obtain a Home Office forensic pathology opinion from the most eminent Home Office forensic pathologist in the country, Dr. Nathaniel Carey. The family have got a copy of Dr. Carey's report, which was very firmly of the view that it would be helpful to obtain the substantial truth behind what had happened for John's body to be exhumed so that he, on behalf of the police, not the family, on behalf of the police, could examine John's remains. And it's our understanding that although the coroner didn't document or record a meeting, a senior detective from British Transport Police went armed with this report to see the senior coroner for Stafford, Mr. Haig, in his rooms, in chambers, to ask for the exhumation of John's body on the backdrop of not just this opinion from Dr. Nathaniel Carey, but other information that had come to light. And the coroner shut the door on that line of fresh investigation. I think it was before my involvement, but it might have been in 2018 or 2019. So that is the full picture in relation to what did the autopsy say. you could have asked the question, what did the autopsy not say? Because that is of equal importance. So the autopsy did not say that a man who had fallen some 25 feet over a bridge had sustained any fractures to any of his limbs. There were no ankle fractures. There were no pelvic fractures as far as the autopsy recorded, which one would have expected in ordinary circumstances, those kind of obvious injuries to have manifested themselves. Now, this is being explained to you not because we want to be saying it, because that is what we have been told by Dr. Carey, and that is what we have read in the original post-mortem report. So I hope that that gives more detail in answer to the question about what did the autopsy say, because as I've said, it's also what it didn't say that is of significant value.
I can actually say that the autopsy did actually say John sustained some incised wounds, and the barrister at the inquest questioned the pathologist and asked, would those have come from a knife? And she did use the word knife at the inquest, because incised wounds are not the type of injury you would get from a train hitting you.
The family did obtain their own review of that autopsy by an equally eminent Home Office pathologist in 2015, Professor, or even earlier, Professor Calder, who submitted a report that was seen by the police. Unfortunately, Professor Calder is no longer with us, but Professor Calder also poured scorn over the content or lack of content of the post-mortem report. I think what also is...
He also, sorry to butt in, he also recommended that John's body be exhumed.
Yeah. I think that what is also of significance is that on conclusion of the inquest, the coroner issues a death certificate. And in that death certificate, which is a permanent record, public record, anyone can see, that the family have to live with, it is recorded in black and white and signed off by the senior coroner, Andrew Haig. John Merrick crashed a car into the bridge over a railway. He exited the car and jumped over the bridge parapet onto the railway some 25 feet below. He was then struck by a train. Now, there was no evidence of a train strike overtly from the autopsy as well, as far as we interpret that document. And there was no evidence of physical injury consistent with that wording of he, John, having jumped over the bridge parapet onto the railway some 25 feet below. But it wasn't just a straight lead plumb drop of 25 feet below. It was what I have described as a Peter Schmeichel star jump, landing at an angle away from the bridge as well. Right. So it's like a swallow dive spread away from the parapet. So it wasn't just he jumps over and drops straight down. He jumped over, sailed in the air, twizzled round, and ended up about probably 15 feet to the diagonal. And that is another aspect of the investigations that I've been involved with on behalf of the family, to obtain expert guidance on just how feasible his end position was, as reported and witnessed by the first attending officers and ambulance crew at the scene, how that position, which remarkably was not captured in any form of CSI photograph that the family have seen. So there was no scene of crime photo taken of John's body in situ, either before death was pronounced or after death was pronounced. We understand that the fire brigade may well have sent and taken thermal imaging photographs of the scene, but those images, if taken, have never been disclosed to the family. Never. And that is despite a coronial inquest, and it's also despite a personal request by me in the family's presence to the commissioner for the fire brigade in person at a hotel that was arranged by the family. We asked to see the thermal images that were taken by, we led to believe, by the fire brigade. We haven't seen them.
Is there evidence of a train?
Network Rail have confirmed to me in email and documentation that in view of the timings of the events, they had identified 4 trains that could have gone past the scene, either upwards or downwards, past the scene in the time frame available. And Network Rail have confirmed to me that the video evidence available to them, or CCTV from the carriages, and also their interviews with the drivers and their physical examinations of the trains, shows no train strike visible.
And we have that in writing.
So the train is fiction.
And that goes to the concern of the family that no matter how the coroner or the police or the authorities view the state of their investigation and the events that they investigated, notwithstanding all of that, the coroner has recorded, and I repeat again from the death certificate, he was then struck by a train.
What's the official police narrative of how John died?
So the police narrative behind getting that report, as far as the family were concerned at that time, was that they were prepared to acknowledge that all might not be as it seemed. But once the coroner knocked their approach back, they appear to have reverted to type and not been as proactive in assisting the family obtain the substantial truth behind what had happened. I can say that within my own professional experience of having dealt with police investigations, both from a murder examination viewpoint and also in my last 20 years of my career from a family's point of view in relation to a coronial inquest, I would go so far as to say that from my perception and read of the papers, this has been the poorest police investigation in relation to a death, especially a death on a railway. There are so many gaps, there are so many inconsistencies that have been revealed. It is remarkable. And I didn't live through it at the time. The family have lived through it. And I pour my heart out to them, not just as their professional advisor, but as a human who's been living through and reading what they've had to read. It's extraordinary. And I believe, and I share the family's belief, that people in the community must know to this day more than has been revealed on record. It's impossible for that not to be the case. There are so many examples, not just based on the testimony at the inquest, but other life events, that the family have experienced, the descriptions of what happened, the inability to challenge large portions of what happened at the inquest process, it is extraordinary.
Paul, can I ask, how valuable has it been having Sefton involved?
I couldn't describe the effort and help that Sefton's given us. You couldn't put a price on it.
The passion is on another level.
His work ethic is phenomenal. The best I've ever come across.
Well, big respect to you there.
And I can say that I don't think Sefton took it. When the paramedics arrived at the scene, they tried to resuscitate our son, and there was no blood in his body.
No blood?
No blood in his body. And the question is, well, where's the blood? Did this happen elsewhere? Because I photographed the track the next morning, and there was, as I say, the amount of blood was what, the size of my thumbnail?
Yeah.
There's no blood. They put, I think, 5 litres of saline in his body to try and resuscitate his heart. The police tried to discredit the forensic, it was a Home Office forensic pathologist, Dr. Calder, in Hertfordshire. We went to see him. He lectured on sudden death at Cambridge University. He did the MI5, MI6 work, the Michael Barrymore case.
Oh yeah.
Very high profile, I would say one of the best in the country, would you?
He had an eminent reputation.
Yeah, one of the best in the country. The police tried to suggest that our pathologist will say anything for money. I want to put it on record that we didn't give him any money. He didn't want any money, right? He felt for us to help us.
As a human.
As a human. Sadly, he's not with us now, but he said to me there that he thought the injuries could have been from a beating, and they were not consistent with a train strike whatsoever. I must stress that.
Yeah.
Can you talk about the crime scene and the kind of dodginess, looking for a better word, that surrounds it?
Well, you must be reading my mind, because one of the things I was going to say was that one of the key areas of evidence in this case was the telephone evidence and the SIM card evidence. And there are conflicting accounts.
Can I butt in? I'm ever so sorry.
Yeah.
But it's just come to my mind now. Myself and my wife, we went to British Transport Police headquarters, right, in Birmingham.
Yeah.
We were told by Malcolm Dobson and Caroline Miller, or Kaz Miller they call her, who was supposed to be the senior investigation officer. We were told categorically, I can look you in the eye and tell the truth, 100% hand on my heart, they told myself and my wife that John was hit so hard by the train, they hit the phone that hard it had snapped the SIM card in half, so the phone wouldn't work. Okay? What they didn't realise, the phone belonged to myself. I got the original receipt, the original box, and the itemised bills came to my home address. When we study all the phone calls, there's a phone, the phone is still ringing at 2 o'clock in the morning. Guess who is ringing John's phone?
Go on.
Staffordshire Police.
Is it Staffordshire Police who said the SIM card has snapped?
No, it was British Transport Police, Malcolm Dobson, the coroner's liaison officer, and this Kaz Miller, who's supposed to be the SIO for British Transport Police. Okay? So we've been told blatant lies, absolute blatant. We're on our knees, we're so upset and ill, and they tell us the train has hit our John that hard, it's broke the phone in half, snapped the SIM card in half, but when I get the itemised bill, it's still ringing. And I rang up BT and said, I've been having calls off this number, and they told me that this number belonged to Staffordshire Police.
This is a very deep, dark rabbit hole,
Yes.
isn't it?
Well, can I just explain also that the physical evidence from police officers who attended the track, different police officers give different accounts about the same objects being found in different places, one to the other.
Yeah.
And one of those items is the mobile phone attributable to John. Well, I think somebody says it might have been in his pocket, others were saying it was on the track, but it's the same item. There's no consistency or continuity. Police should be trained, especially in a death scene or close to death scene, that where you find an item of property, you need to log the item, where it was, bag it, fingerprint it, secure it. And there is no consistency whatsoever given from the attending officers whose statements we've got on analysis say different things about the same thing. More to the point, there were 3 other mobile phones seemingly found in the glove box of the vehicle that was involved in the so-called collision on the bridge.
Can I just say, Staffordshire Police have put in writing that these phones were secreted behind the airbag in the Fiesta.
Right.
Okay? I still own the Fiesta, or should I say the Fiesta's in my possession. There is no airbag in that Fiesta, but the police in their wisdom have said the phones were either hidden or secreted behind the airbag. The car was never manufactured with an airbag. I got that in writing from Ford Motor Company. So they're just saying whatever they like. The phone's in the glove box, it's in the airbag, it's in his pocket, it's on the track.
But what is of concern is that we don't have consistent evidence about the finding of the phones, and more to the point, where was the SIM card that was ringing at the time? Because the handset doesn't necessarily equate to the SIM card. And we have undertaken our own telephonic cell phone analysis, which shed much more light on the triangulation of the SIM card in relation to the movements of John at the material times. But because of the technology available then and the lack of empirical information that would now be available, that wasn't available then, we've not been able to definitively establish that John's movements from the triangulation were not the same as described by the witnesses in the case.
John's phone, I proved I paid for it. The police said, have you got the receipt? I said, yes. Could you bring the receipt? Yeah. So, have you got the box? Yes. So, we go the next day or the day after back to the Birmingham headquarters. I give Malcolm Dobson and Kaz Miller the box that it was purchased, the receipt. They gave me a receipt for it. They promised to give me the phone back. Guess who they gave the phone to?
Go on.
Hayley Tirona.
Yeah.
Right now, the coroner told us that Hayley Tirona was desperate to get the phone back. She was ringing him constantly soon after John died. Must have the phone back, must have the phone back. What Kaz Miller did say to us at British Transport headquarters, there were some dreadful messages on that phone from Hayley Tirona.
Yeah.
So what those messages were, we don't know, but we were told by the police they were not very nice messages.
Do you think that the police know what happened and are covering it up?
I think the police know exactly what happened. and I will say this, and I'd say it on oath, there are probably two reasons the police are covering this up. One, that somebody's on the take, or certain people are socialising with the police, or they may be police informers.
So what the coroner's pathologist was told, Hayley Tironi, partner of the deceased and mother of his children, stated that John Merrick had a problem with alcohol consumption. In fact, stating he was an alcoholic.
Sorry, who said this?
Hayley.
Right.
To what?
The love of his life.
Okay.
She also, of significance, and this links into the phone, she said she last spoke with him at 22:10 that evening. She got the feeling something wasn't right, but couldn't say what. She is adamant that he would not have taken his own life, and he was simply trying to get away, as he could not afford to lose his driving license. Stated that the Ford Fiesta was borrowed from a client of his, and she was aware he had attended in pubs that evening. Mobile phone and wallet seized from the deceased. So that's what the three pathologists were told before they performed that post-mortem. So there is reference there to the 10 minutes past 10 phone call that Hayley Tironi says she received. But we have never been able to probe that account. There may have been an outgoing call made from that SIM card at 22:10, but we don't know the content of the conversation. We know the duration of the conversation, but we don't know either the precise location of the handset within which that SIM card was present that clocked up that call. It is certainly possible that it wasn't necessarily with John at the track. We don't know. It's just another mind-boggling lack of detailed investigation and inquiry that British Transport Police and those charged with this investigation failed to perform. It's extraordinary, and it's still not been resolved to anybody's satisfaction.
Do you believe that you know who killed your son?
It's not up to me to say who has done this. It's up to the police to say who's murdered John. But what I will say is, we had a text message of Peter Tironi, who is the brother of Russell Tironi. I offered quite a large reward, which I had a separate mobile phone for the reward line, and we'd gone out and left the phone at home. When we came back, my wife said, "Oh, there's a missed call on the reward line." When I rang it back, it turned out it was Peter Tironi, the brother of Russell Tironi, and he said that John and Hayley had had a fight, and she rang her father, Russell Tironi, what to do with John's body. But she said what to do with John, so I'll just put that on record.
Yeah.
That Peter Tironi didn't say body, he said what to do with John. Okay? Now, whether this took place at her house or Russell Tironi's house, I don't know that, I can't say that. It's up to the police to prove that. Whether her father was up the pub on a Friday evening, which was a regular occurrence. But I can say, on a regular occurrence, John did go back to Russell Tironi's house with Hayley for a Chinese takeaway on a Friday evening. The railway track where John's body was found runs through Russell Tironi's back garden, which as the crow flies is a few hundred metres away. Okay? So that's what I can say, which is all documented and it's fact. The police have actually interviewed Peter Tironi, and the police promised to give us a statement of Peter Tironi.
Did you receive it?
But no.
I had a feeling that was what you were going to say.
Yeah, so the police have refused to give us the statement. We've asked numerous times. So that's where we are.
Is there anything that you would like to add to that, Sefton?
Certainly. We've mentioned previously that the family had engaged Professor Calder, and I've now located a report from him that was signed off before the inquest and was available to the inquest. And within that report that I've referenced, he says, amongst other things, as follows: the overall financings in brief do not accord with having been struck by a train. And this is Professor Calder speaking, and he says, so far this year I have carried out at least 5 autopsies on railway incidents. These have varied from underground to high-speed trains. These resulted in severe disruptive injuries due to physical nature of rolling stock. There is a confounding factor of some black oil and the origin and nature of this. The pattern of some of the injuries would accord with being caused by a blunt instrument with some force, but not to give disruption to the external surface of the body. The confounding factor is the nature and causation of the incised wounds. These were somewhat superficial, and the causation has to be speculative, but without being aware of the physical nature of the rolling stock, it is difficult to reconcile the distribution of these injuries being caused by a train. However, the important observation by the pathologist is incisive. He goes on to say it is understood that there is some speculation that the deceased fell from some 8 meters. From this, it would be expected that the kinetic energy of a 99 kilogram man would have caused some representative trauma associated with precipitation. However, I have no recorded data as to the distance the body was from the bridge. That's a key point that I mentioned previously. He didn't drop plumb line, lead line straight beneath the parapet. He was spread-eagled away some distance and at an angle. So that's important omission that he is flagging up. The pathologist didn't have that information when performing the autopsy, and Professor Calder didn't have that information available on review.
Paul, can I ask, for what reason do you personally think that somebody would want John dead?
He may have known too much about certain people, that they thought he may have said something about their activities. It may be just because of the fact that he was ending the relationship, and they didn't want the relationship to be ended. We've received an anonymous letter suggesting that John needed to be silenced because he knew too much about the Taronis activities.
I've worked and looked into and deep dived a few cases, and I've not known one which has so many inconsistencies, so many holes, so much, in my opinion, corruption.
The corruption here is started from day one. The case was originally designated as a crime scene, and it was also designated a suspicious scene, and shortly, within an hour, it was changed from a crime scene and a suspicious scene to non-suspicious. Is there somebody there they have in the camp that's made a phone call? Is it because the police commissioner's son was involved? Deputy police commissioner's son, should I say? John Arnold.
Do you want to go more into that connection?
I'm glad you've introduced John Arnold, because John Arnold spoke to the police on the night or early hours of the morning of this event. The family have never been told what John Arnold said to the police. How do we know that John Arnold spoke to the police that night? We know because a few days before the inquest, John Arnold was visited again by two police officers who have made statements in this case saying they wanted to clarify details given in his first account. So 3 or 4 days before the inquest, two police officers go to see John Arnold to clarify what he had said. His first account did not carry John Arnold's signature. So we assume that his first account must have been recorded in pocket notebooks carried by the officer who interviewed him or spoke to him on that occasion. We still don't know what was said. But when the clarification meeting took place, John Arnold was accompanied by his mother. And he again refused to sign off to anything that was put to him by the police, which is all very concerning. The significance of John Arnold is that John Arnold not only was there on the night, but he was on the railway tracks the following morning, within hours of John Merrick's own death, seemingly looking for something on the railway tracks before Mr. and Mrs. Merrick attended to look at the scene where their loved one had fallen. And there is conflict between Arnold and the family as to who said what and why he was there, but it's clear on any analysis that he was there before the Merrick family. So why was he there? Not only was he there, he'd driven a significant distance out of his way to take a friend of his, Tom Penny, to the location. And they give, between themselves, differing accounts as to the circumstances leading up to them being on the railway track. So we believe, or the family believes, and I support their belief, that John Arnold must have significant information with regards to the background to this event. Now fast forward to 2023, and it's public knowledge that John Arnold, who is the son of a former deputy police and crime commissioner, John Arnold was convicted at Birmingham Crown Court of conspiracy to supply Class A controlled drugs into the United Kingdom. Conspiracy to import and supply drugs. Nearly 2 tons of cocaine, heroin and ketamine, carrying a street value of £135 million, was brought into UK ports by mechanism orchestrated by John Arnold, the same person who was on the railway tracks within hours of the death. What was he looking for? Was he looking for John Merrick's phone? Why on earth would he have been there? It didn't make, and still doesn't make, any kind of sense. What caused him to go? Why was he asked to be there? His explanation to his friend Penny just doesn't make any kind of sense. And so here is a man who several years later receives a 23-year term of imprisonment for a heinous offence of trying to flood the UK with 2 tons of Class A controlled drugs, was involved on the night at some level, either as an eyewitness, and certainly the next morning, what caused him to be on the railway track. We believe, the family believes, that people in the community must know that information. He himself will know that information. He has never had the strength or courage to commit what he knows to writing in a signed statement of the truth. Why would that be? What is the reason why a witness to those events refuses to sign a statement of truth? The family cannot understand that. And in my experience of having been involved in coming across investigations, especially into serious events touching upon the death of an individual, and where someone must have been close to the scene at the time that it happened, it defies belief and logic to work out why someone would not volunteer information to the police with a statement signed off as being the truth of his position.
I want to thank you for that as well, Sefton. I want to read something from the John Merrick Memorial page on Facebook.
Yes.
So, on that, which is available on Facebook, obviously, anyone wants to check that out, it's called the John Merrick Memorial page. Right, there is a comment that reads as follows, and I quote, "It's a pity that no one can come out and say it's the blank family." So they've left the name of the family out. Who are behind this? They were shady in the 90s. There is a Masonic connection. ... Line of duty. This fictional, which that I'm putting the quotes as I read it, series was closer to the mark than many know. There's a hell of a lot of stuff that happened in Birmingham / Sutton Coldfield and wider West Midlands that has been covered up over the years. Close comment, close quote. Now, from reading that, it's blatantly obvious that people seem to know that John was murdered and who did it. Now, Paul, you also said that you believe people know.
I believe people know.
Even with a reward on offer, which is quite a lucrative reward, nobody has ever come forward. Why do you think that is?
I think people fear this particular family. I don't know why they fear them, but obviously people do fear them. I will tell it as it is. These are the facts. We know who's behind it. Peter Taroni has already told us. He's told us his brother and his brother's daughter are involved, right? It's up to the police to prove this. So there can be no illusion who is involved in this.
So
it was actually said at the inquest, Dave Garrett said at the inquest, Paul Merrick accuses the Taroni family of murdering his son. That was aired at the inquest. Why are Stafford Police doing nothing about it? Are they on the take? Or are informers involved? It can only be one of the two.
what effect has this had on your family?
Oh, it's just broken our family. It's wrecked our family. It's given my daughter a nervous breakdown, who's still under the doctor. It's just wrecked our family. I was ill for 3 years. It made me that ill.
Where can people go if they have any information?
I'm quite happy to put my mobile number on your site and they can ring me personally.
Yeah, what about the police?
I don't trust the police.
So I'll go to you.
I don't trust the police. The police have done nothing but cover this up from day one. So I have no confidence in the police helping us with this.
So with any information you get, what will you do with that then?
I'll give it to my solicitor, Sefton.
Mr. Sefton.
And I think that what I can say to your audience is that we are in the process of liaising with a senior and commanding barrister who is in the upper echelons of those familiar with coronial process from London. We are also contemplating an option of trying to reopen the investigation, because there are just so many gaps in this, just if I may, because I found it
Yeah, go for it.
for your audience. So, an officer, a detective constable, Jean-Pierre Chulhan, made a statement of truth on the 13th of June 2014, which was made available to the family. And this relates to the witness, Mr. Arnold. And in his statement on the 13th of June 2014, he states as the truth as follows, and this is a direct quote. Mr. Arnold had previously given an account to the police at the time of the incident. However, he was unwilling to provide a signed statement stating that he was concerned about the repercussions he might be subject to as a result of speaking to the police. So there you have, in a nutshell, a statement confirming that Mr. Arnold, who I've spoken to earlier on in this discussion, was himself portraying to those tasked with investigating this death, he was feared of repercussions that he may be subject to as a result of speaking to the police. And the police information is he said that to them at the time of the incident. So why would he be fearful of repercussions if he was telling the truth? Who was he, who has nothing to do with the Merrick family? Why would that person be fearful on the night? And why would that fearful person then be present on the track the next morning?
If it wasn't so serious in the loss of your son,
Yeah.
it's almost comical at how flawed, how many holes are clearly
Let me tell you this.
in this.
Let me tell you this. The family that are involved sent a couple of thugs into our local pub, right? The thugs, I was not there luckily, but I was told by a good friend of mine, David, who's now sadly passed away. They said to him, tell Merricks to stop investigating this case, otherwise he will end up where his son is, right? And he told them to clear off.
And the same officer who made that statement has recorded that when he saw Mr. Arnold in June 2014, although Mr. Arnold didn't sign a statement, he has recorded that Mr. Arnold told him Mr. Arnold was asked when he was informed of the incident involving the death of Mr. John Merrick. Mr. Arnold stated he had received a call at 6:30 a.m. on 7 September, the morning after the incident, from his friend Harry Taroney, who lives next door to him and is the brother of Haley Taroney, the partner of the deceased. Now, why would Mr. Arnold be contacted, if that be true, at 6:30 in the morning? Especially when it would appear he was there on the night himself. And his information doesn't square with the witness that he collected 45 minutes away or so from this location.
My questions have concluded, but the mic is yours for Sefton and yourself, Paul. Anything else you would like to add?
What I'd like to say, and I hope it's been apparent from my contribution to this very helpful discussion, is that the majority of what I have said is based on actual documentation that we have received. It's not made up information. It might sound so far-fetched that people are doubting how can this have happened, but I've seen what I've read and more with my own eyes, several years after the Merrick family lived it, whilst it was unfolding before them. And as I said right at the beginning of this conversation, I don't think I've seen an investigation into the death of an individual in such suspicious circumstances having more holes and leaving more questions than their investigation has tried to answer in the first place. And so it's on the family behalf that the family appeal to people out there who may know or may know of someone who knows information pertaining to any element of these events on the night. Were you in the company of Amber Ridgway when she was before she was leaving to go off with her boyfriend to the scene of the so-called collision? Have you spoken to her since? Has anybody spoken to any of the witnesses in relation to what they say they saw and what they've done? Because we believe that there must be public information available to the public that would assist in relation to the family unearthing the substantial truth behind what happened in relation to their son. Thank you very much for allowing us to contribute to your program.
I think that is a wonderful place to conclude this first instalment, if you will.
May I thank you as well for helping us with this traumatic experience.
Of course, no problem. I want to thank you, and this extends to your family as well. Thank you to you, Sefton, for sharing all of that with myself and with the Break the Ice audience. And I genuinely hope that today's interview conversation can bring some good, may get the ball rolling, which may lead to some justice for John, which you so desperately seek. I wish you all the luck in the world, and rest in peace to John, and thank you very much.
Thank you very much. Appreciate it. Thank you.
No problem.
Thank you.
Thank you, Sefton.
Thank you.
Cheers.